Yes, this is the best Queens of the Stone Age record. You might be saying, isn't that Song for the Deaf? Isn't that Era Vulgaris? Aren't one of these records better? I go potentially Era Vulgaris. Era Vulgaris might be better than this. But Lullabies to Paralyze is so incredible. It's so good. It's so groovy. It's so stanky. It's just the vibe. It feels like you crawled up into a Tim Burton movie and you're sat there and you're in the furniture of the creepy old creaking house. You feel the cushions embrace around you. You're like, oh, I didn't know these sensations were here. There's some creepy goth decomposing dead girl. And, and you look at her and you go, maybe I'm aroused. Maybe I'm attracted to this. I never thought about, about the unalived, and how that might make me feel. But I've been listening to the Misfits lately, and I've been listening to this Queens of the Stone Age record, Lullabies to Paralyze, and I've been watching Tim Burton movies. Like, that's the perfect vibe. You want to be a vampire, you want to be working out, you're in your vampire era, this is the perfect album. It's so good. So whether you're a longtime rocker who wants to know what Gen Z thinks about rock and roll, or you're a Gen Z or a TikTok kitten, if you will, and you just want to know what's some good records, what's some good rock music, you're in the right place. This is The Rock Show with Connor Farrell. My name is, of course, Connor Farrell, the king of rock and roll, heir to the throne of rock and roll. And I'm listening to the record right now in my AirPods, and it is so good. Just got to Medication. Medication is an incredible song for a number of reasons. It's straightforward. It proves that all you need to do is be catchy, have some guitar tones that bring intensity, and just scream and sing and, shout and are triumphant. And mix that with some drums, some basic chords. Doesn't need to be crazy. You don't need to be a crazy guitar player to just write some really good rock songs. Medication is a really good song. I think probably Queens of the Stone Age greatest song is probably Everybody Knows You're Insane. That's the third song on this record. Tangled Up in Plaid is so brutal and good. Burn the Witch is incredible. In My Head is dark and beautiful. And I think originally it's from the Desert Sessions. Josh Homme, the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age, he would invite a bunch of musicians, and still does. He does these where he calls it the Desert Sessions. And he invites other musicians out to his ranch, where his recording studio is, and they come up with all these songs. And they do a record together. And one of the songs that came off of that and then made it onto a Queens record is In My Head. And that's dark and beautiful and twisted. Little Sister, amazing, super catchy, incredible song. I Never Came is so touching. Maybe that's the one that came off of Desert Sessions. Maybe they both did. Someone's in the Wolf is intense and amazing and long and builds and just eerie and great when you're tired as shit. And it's a late night and you're just like, oh. Now, The Blood is Love, incredible too. Skin on Skin. These are stankier, good. Broken Box, really catchy, kind of feels a little more like you're on an acid trip. Long Slow Goodbye is probably one of the most brutal, like heart-wrenching songs that there exists in existence. It's up there, it's like a 505, Cigarette Daydreams. It's one of those. Bust out the acoustic guitar and just pour your heart out. The intensity's there on all these songs. The composition, the tones, the aesthetic, the vibe, everything is so perfect and beautiful. It feels like you're in an old school German fairy tale. And it's really funny because this is probably the best live era for Queens of the Stone Age. I gotta say, Queens of the Stone Age live. And I think it's 2005. We're looking right here. 2005. Yep, Belfort Festival in France. And go watch Queens of the Stone Age live at Belfort Festival 2005. I'm looking at the track list right now. Lost Art of Keeping a Secret. Really good. Second record, rated R. I Think I Lost My Headache. Incredible, same record. But then you get to like In My Head, Little Sister, Burn the Witch, Long Slow Goodbye, Tangled Up in Plaid, I Never Came. It's like, oh my God. this is like the best era. And then they throw in the hits from the other, tracks, but the other records. But god damn it, that is so incredible. It almost makes you sad because you're like, this was such a good, tight vibe and era. And Queens are a band that always got to, keep it moving. And they're good. They're still incredible. And they can play. They didn't go soft. They play these songs with the same intensity as when they wrote them. But just me as a listener, just like the vibe of this record, the vibe of the first record. There's a band called Witchfinder General from like the early 80s. It's almost like in the vein of like early Black Sabbath. Kind of stoner, doom rock, whatever you might call it. And just that album, this album, Era Vulgaris, like this is the perfect, like stanky, like you're in C tuning. You've got these tortured guitars, and they're just visceral, and you're just in the friggin' Tim Burton movie. You're in the couch. You're inside of Wednesday Addams. I don't mean that in a reproductive sense. I mean, you're literally like, imagine if you are a tiny little person, like a Magic School Bus shrunk down, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you're inside her stomach, and you're like Ant-Man. You slowly expand until you are wearing Wednesday Addams as a skin suit. Her lifeless corporal form is a skin suit that you're wearing. You're wearing Wednesday Addams as a suit of skin, similar to the movie, what is it, No One Lives? There's a movie called No One Lives, and the guy looks like No One Lives. The guy almost looks like Orlando Bloom, but it's Luke Evans. It's a horror movie. It's horribly graphic, but it's pretty funny. It's one of those movies where it's almost like the protagonist is the protagonist is the monster. It's too gory, and it starts to get muddled near the end of the movie. But there's one scene in the movie where he basically kills one of the people, right? And he slides into the person's body through the back. Once again, I don't mean this in an not auto, but just erotic sense of the word. But he cuts open a body. He pulls himself through into it like a tauntaun in Star Wars. Better out than in. That's Shrek, actually. But what does Shrek say? What does tauntaun say? And I thought they smelled bad on the outside. So you get in, gets in the body, Orlando Bloom lookalike, Luke Evans, and he puts this thing, and you find out he's actually like a serial killer kidnapper. And so what he does is he's wearing, person as a suit like you are with Wednesday Addams. And then the people who, were his friends, the guy he killed that he's wearing, took his body back to the farm they're at, right? Back into the barn. And then he sneaks out of the back of the body. And you don't know he's in the body until he just like punches his hand through and exits the body. And it's comical. But just that kind of aesthetic, that feeling, that vibe, that's where you are here. And it's good. It's good. Let's look at some Tim Burton. Let's pull up on the Google real quick. Tim Burton. And when you're looking at Tim Burton movies, right, you've got Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, Beetlejuice, Batman. We don't talk about Charlie Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. No, but you got, you've got some common themes when it comes to Tim Burton movies. Oh, I saw the movie 9. That's like weird and sad, and it's like weird. But Tim Burton's got all these weird, freaky little movies and things he does, and this feels like that. This record. He had Hansel and Gretel. This is 1983. This looks like a weird, creepy cartoon. But I think you take, like this Tim Burton vibe. Clearly anything Danny Elfman's done, because he's done the score and the soundtrack for most Tim Burton movies. But you look at, the Oingo Boingo records. You look at, some of these Queens of the Stone Age records, the Witchfinder General records. You know, you know, some of this stuff just really like gets nice and it feels like dark, twisted fairy tale. Much more than like emo music. Like Tangled Up in Plaid, just I'm listening to it right now. This song is so much more like comfortable and like smirking in that vibe than, you know, this record and that kind of stuff feels much heavier than anything like metal bands tend to do. I would say System of a Down on their first record, and some of the later ones hits a similar vibe as this record, where it just gets in there. It just gets this dark, stanky, but like they like being there. It's this wonderful, almost perverse vibe that you get into, and it feels like home. You know, I'm curious right now to see Lullabies to Paralyze. Let's see. I'm gonna pull up the Wikipedia, and I'm interested to see what people thought of this album at the time. It says 98% of Google users liked the album. Good. This is an incredible album. Yeah. This is this is the best record. I like Era Vulgaris a lot, but this record is so good. Man, it's so good. It's so good. Oh, and one of the B-sides on the Japanese edition is Infinity. I don't know why bands put stuff in their Japanese edition of their albums they don't put on the regular American ones back in the day. No, but it's so good. Okay. So what did people say at the time? Huh. What's happening? I don't see many reviews here. Oh, here we go. Background. There's a Josh Homme quote from a Pitchfork interview in 2007. So this is when the next album came out. And at the time, I was like, fuck, no one's even listening to this. It's too much about other stuff. And it would have been easier to make Songs for the Deaf too, which is basically all I heard in my own head, but I can't do that. You've got to shake all that shit away. Now that makes sense. And honestly, this Queens of the Stone Age, this version of Queens of the Stone Age, this, Hansel and Gretel, dark twisted, what are those called? Let me pull it up. I'm going to pull it up now. Fairy Tale Original. No, let's see. German Fairy Tales. The Brothers Grimm. These Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, like this kind of stuff, this kind of like this gross but comfy but stanky, this just nice and good vibe. This is where I feel this intensity. Like if I could only have one Queen's record, I'd have this one. I would get rid of Rated R with its nice, good artsy music and good indie alternative songs and the original record with just riffing out, which is good. And Songs for the Deaf is one of the greatest albums of all time. But this record's made for me. This feels right. In the same way the first two Royal Blood records feel right. They feel like someone made music for me. Somehow they found an emotion I didn't know I had deep inside me, and they put it out, and they made that as a record. So it's just really interesting. And I think that urge, let's see, Pitchfork. So funny, Pitchfork apparently is shut down now. But ironically, everyone seems to hate Pitchfork on the internet. I seem to tend to agree with what Pitchfork says when it comes to rock. The looseness of the band's lineup, yada yada, riffing. Oh, Troy Van Leeuwen, excellent. It's great. I'm looking, carnival-esque melodies, yeah. This is just a beautiful, almost, twisted album. Like, this is music worth listening to, and just the cover art, so perfect. It really does feel like that Brothers Grimm dark fairy tale. It feels like exactly what I want to know. And even this review, they're not saying much. I'm almost confused by this. Maybe we check out the Amazon reviews. on the CD. See if that's any use. Unlike, let's see, unless like me, you then picked up the back catalog and wrapped it around the drug strip that was rated R, yada, you're first underwhelmed. Where are the constant pounding rock chords? Why have we moved from high desert where God is in the radio to a place where Simmons and the Wolf, where instead of Nick Oliveri's scream, we hear the "Aya Hi, I'm Burn the Witch" to an enchanted force of change. Well, as you know, this is Josh Homme's ship now. Josh and Troy Van Leeuwen and Elaine Johannes, Alan Johannes, and Joey Castillo, Grohl fans, fear not, Jelly Stellar. The occasional Dave catching riff and a dash of Lanigan's bluesy tones, all combined with guest appearances by Billy Gibbons, Brody Dale, Shirley Manson, and Chris Gose. And then, well, Josh and Nick broke up, so to speak, musically, and this is an album of exploration of seeing what sounds come when the duo is rent apart. And in the aftermath of Tornado's exit, the Desert Fox remains. This is a trip. This is a concept album. This is a post-nu metal rock opera. Exactly. This is good. I like nu metal and I love rock, but this is so much better. This is the best album. This is my favorite album. Take my AirPod out for a second. Even though I'm listening to In My Head, a beautiful song, I've had a bunch of earwax, congregating in places I do not prefer to have earwax congregating, quite frankly. And let's see if we can use a used tissue to get the earwax out. Here we go. This is like Shrek. I've got earwax. Shrek is an idol of mine, truly. Shrek and potentially Josh Homme. Right. So let's read the rest of this review. This is a good review. And I kind of agree with it. Why write a review? This is a post-nu metal rock opera. The album reaches back to the first Queen's record when the phone no longer says, Josh, this is Nick Oliveri, but instead is off the hook to start. Long, slow goodbye. Nick's gone, and if he comes back, he comes back. This is Josh's ship now, and he wanted to see what would happen. Don't dismiss this album. Note the fact that many people gave it 4 stars or 3, especially the major reviewers, claiming that it's a lazy follow-up, and then Queens are not the Queens without Nick, and that Josh has gone off the deep end. And then remember what Josh has said recently on a musical station that will remain nameless. Right now, if you're saying the span's gone soft, you really don't know what the fuck you're talking about. This is not songs for the deaf. This is songs for the forest of change. This album torches the stoner epics of Rated R, and it reaches back to the proto-Queens of their self-titled debut. It jams down on occasion with the precision of songs for the deaf's Drop C Scalpel, and it goes off to find Queens of the Josh age, circa 2005. They fucking rock, my friend. Welcome to the forest. Take a deep breath and watch out, because you never know. As you enter this ethereal world, Nick, Troy, Elaine, and Joey are hiding behind the trees with songs that will not paralyze or mesmerize. To quote Jack Black, prepare to have your socks rocked off when you least expect it. The Queens are dead. Long live the Queens. Their new epic proclaiming the flaming intensity of the red-haired singer that is espoused not only in the licks that blast away at your very rock and roll soul, but also flame into the flaming cue that burns on their official site. May its fires never be extinguished. This is the dose you were dreaming of. Revelation from above. This is the dose you've been dreaming of. Revelation from above. Amen. Rock on, Josh. Rock on, y'all. Now, when did this review? This was written in 2005, right when the album came out, by George James Malik. Let's check out this guy's profile, George J. Malik. Huh. Fascinating. But yeah, I want to revisit that, because that's really, truly, this is a post-nu metal rock opera. I love that idea. And I find that enchanting. And I love what happens with this record. I love everything about it. I love everything on it. Listen to this record. Go to sleep to this record. Go work out to this record. This is a record that'll make you cry and scream and shout, and you'll learn new things about yourself. But this is the greatest Queen's record, arguably the greatest record of all time. In my book, this is one of the greatest records of all time. I love it so much. It's so incredible. I love it so much. It's so incredible. I love it. Go listen to it. And Era Vulgaris does not fail to deliver. The other stuff that comes after these records, the next 3, are incredible. But this, just for some reason, not objective, totally subjective, totally me, this record hits right where I need it to. So, on that note, oh my God. Like when I make music, I'm going to try and make this record. I'm going to make stuff in the vein of this. This is the standard to which I hold myself, and I implore you all to hold yourselves. Listen to this. Listen to the first 2 Royal Blood records. Listen to, Oingo Boingo's first 4 records. Listen to Boingo by Oingo Boingo. That one gets a similar vibe to this record. Listen to like all of this stuff. It's incredible. And just prepare to enter the Brothers Grimm dark forest fairy tale. I love the idea of a forest. A forest just makes me feel right, makes me feel good. Scottish hills, there's a dragon, there's a castle, it's dreary, and there's green forest and dark browns and rich colors like that. That's where I feel perfect and at home. And someday I'll have that for myself. But until then, I've got this record. Lullabies to Paralyze. But yeah, I love you guys. Appreciate you listening, checking it out. And let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? What album do you like better? Does this album need to grow on you? Do you like it at first sight? This was love at first sight for me. It just clicked, and that's never going to grow old on me. This record's so incredible. I can listen to it every day, for breakfast, for dinner, for lunch. I love it. But Era Vulgaris, the next record, is so good too. So if you'd like to, please, I implore you, join me in my next podcast my next video podcast, my next review on Era Vulgaris, the next album. Okay, so find that video, click it, okay? You get 5 seconds to find it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you find it? Did you click it? Did you find it? Okay, I'll see you there. And rock on.